That is sobering. And I believe that it was those concerns that led the Bermuda College Lecture Series Committee to arrange this lecture this evening. The heading, Murder in Paradise, addressing Bermuda's prolonged young black male homicide crisis, causes and potential solutions. Now, my mother used to say, after all is said and done, more is always said than done. We're not trying to do that tonight. Everybody's contribution is valid, but we want to try and focus our energies on causes and potential solutions. And so with that spirit, the format that we intend to follow will be that we will invite the panelists, our four Bermudian male panelists, to address us briefly on their contributions to the topic. And thereafter, we don't see it that often in Bermuda, but what should happen after that is that there should be a discussion between the panel. It's a panel discussion. And that, we hope, is the real value of this evening, that we get the benefit of these individuals discussing the issue. In today's age, anybody can touch a button and download various materials and information from the internet digitally. And so those days where people just get lectured at are sort of changed now. The real value is the discussion that this will engender. And this is a community-based approach. The issues will be causes, but hopefully potential solutions, or the beginnings of potential solutions that we as a community can take away or start to build and develop to save ourselves and to save our young people. And in light of the fact, as I said, that there are 8 already this year, September, there are 8 that we've lost to unsociable behavior. I think I would be remiss if I acted as if this was just a regular oral panel discussion. And for those of you that are able or minded to stand, I think we should stand in a moment of remembrance and recognition for our losses. They buried a 16-year-old today. So I think we should actually stand and in recognition of our losses, reflect on all those who are. Thank you. So the format, as I said, will be that the panel will give their presentations, then they will discuss the topic, and then we will open the floor to questions. And when I say that, I say it respectfully. Everyone's contribution is important, but tonight we're here to have the benefit of questions for our panelists that are present. If you want to make or need to make a comment for contextual purposes, that's understood. But this is not a night for speeches from the floor. That information is important, however, and what has been suggested is that there will be an email address and a telephone number provided for those of you who would like to do something a little bit more substantive in sharing your views or your comments or your suggestions. That will be posted on the screen, and that's the appropriate method for people to share in a detailed way. Primarily, we're interested in the questions for the panel. So I hope I've made myself clear, and I'll continue to remind you. And no one is being shut out here. Everybody's contribution will be recorded. All right. So I think the first thing that I'd like to do is to introduce you to your panel. I'm not going to do it in any long, detailed way. What I have done is ask that they will tell you before they make their presentations a little bit more about who they are. But as I've said, these are, 4 Bermudians who have come because these issues are of concern to them. So the first member of the panel is the Honorable Justice Juan Wolf. And Mr. Wolf, Justice Wolf, is a former policeman, a former prosecutor, a former defense counsel, a former magistrate, and now a puisne judge of the Supreme Court of Bermuda. And so he brings a very interesting perspective, and I'm looking forward to hearing his concerns, his suggestions, his submissions, and his perspective. Then we have Mr. Quentin Sherlock, who is an educator, who has formerly lectured in psychology at Bermuda College and also in the U.S. Mr. Sherlock is currently the executive director of the ACID Foundation, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that and how his passion and belief for education and a holistic approach is being utilized. We have also Dr. Tyrone Douglas. Dr. Douglas is also an educator. He is currently on the faculty of the University of California, Berkeley, where he is the associate athletic director for diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and justice. And so his passion for young people and ensuring that they are well trained, well skilled, will also be very valuable for us. And last but not least, we have Mr. Kadre Hill, who is a young Bermudian who knows firsthand the visceral loss of a loved one, a family member, to antisocial behavior. And even though his brother was lost several years ago, I'm sure he'll share that is as cutting as if it had happened just yesterday. And so he'll share some of his approach which may be beneficial to us, on how he has tried to turn that tragedy into triumph and progress. So we are very, very, we're blessed in order to have the benefit of these four Bermudian men. Now, I think that at this time we have a poem, a very interesting poem. The author, I think, is unknown or wants to remain anonymous, and that will be presented by Miss Adams. It's interesting indeed, and it's going to be on the screen so you can see it. There it is. Um, it is quite incredible how, when you read it one way, it's it's a dichotomy. So, Ms. Adams will share that with you.
Good evening, everyone. Written off, that boy is going to end up dead or in jail. So don't try to tell me he can turn things around. Because the more I think about it, he's thrown his life away. And I'm not going to say he's a good kid. Let me tell you, there's no hope for him. And I refuse to believe there's some good in that boy. Because whenever he crosses my mind, I think there's only a matter of time. I want you now, I'm going to read that poem again. I think whoever the person was who wrote this poem, this genius, I'm going to read this now from the bottom back to the top. Written off. There's only a matter of time, because whenever he crosses my mind, I think there's some good in that boy, and I refuse to believe there's no hope for him. Let me tell you, he's a good kid, and I'm not going to say he's throwing away his life, because the more I think about it, he can turn things around. So don't try to tell me that boy is going to end up dead or in jail. And as we go through the proceedings tonight, I want you to keep that in your mind, because this is a double-edged sword that we're fighting. And there are people on both sides in different places, and it impacts all of us in the end. And when someone sent this to me, and then I was asked to assist here, I sent it to the panel to take a look at. And when I read it backwards, I thought of every time someone passes, I say, another mother has lost a child. So we have to look at it from two perspectives. It's not just one. It's two, and there are many more beyond that. And as we explore this tonight, I hope that you'll try to see it from the different perspectives that are being presented by our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Adams. Now, in order for us to have a forum such as this, there's a lot of work involved. And so there are a few sponsors that I've been asked to give special thanks to. So for tonight, special sponsors are ER Fisheries and Foods, Chico and Peas Restaurant and Catering, Bermuda, Bermuda Communication Group Limited, BCG, the Bermuda College Faculty Association, and the Cambridge Beaches Resort and Spa. And we give our special thanks to them, and we'll read them out again before we finish this evening. I also want to thank all of the people who are part of the team. Again, this doesn't happen with one person, and I want to say a very, very special thanks to all of you. Thank you. All right. We have we have something that we'd like to do, which is quite different tonight. And at the beginning, I asked that we all be respectful of all speakers. Sometimes in our community, people who have committed crimes are vilified. But if we are serious about taking a community approach, answering this question about the prolonged young black male homicide crisis and causes and potential solutions, I think it's important for us to actually listen to those who are incarcerated. That's very often a voice that's silent. And so we have the pleasure of this evening hearing from three gentlemen who are incarcerated. They are they have agreed to share with us information that may help us to see things differently or how we may avoid mistakes. So can we start? Okay.
Gentlemen, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. What we're trying to do here again is protect their identity. Obviously, this is an open forum, and we're sensitive to all the people that are in the room. But we also want to be respectful to their agreeing to make a difficult decision to participate in a forum such as this. All right, so I don't know who I'm speaking to by name deliberately, but the first speaker, would you like to start your contribution?
First of all, good evening, everybody. I would like to give thanks for giving me this opportunity to be of assistance. Um, the, I would say the best. Well, I'm gonna let you know that I'm solution based. So I feel the best contribution that I could give is a possible solution, and this solution didn't just derive from my own ideas. This came from over the years of speaking to troubled teenagers in school and out of school, and different conversations that I'm having with Brethren and what I've personally arrived at, and it's not been talked amongst collectively, is that the solution is a lot of power in her, meaning that you have a lot of guys that's incarcerated that's probably comprises of every gang on this island. So we've been in talks with each other in reference to how we could slow down, if not stop, what's going on the island. And if we prove our knowledge from in her and out there, I feel that we could make something happen, because I don't believe that no one individual has the answer, but I believe collectively we could make something happen. And what that solution is, I guess we'll have to brainstorm on that, but I have a few ideas.
Are you in a position to share that now, or is that something that you follow up on?
Well, I won't be able to share it in its entirety, but an idea that came across was an incentive, meaning not for us, but I'm a paint the picture clear for you. If you have those that's out there committing crimes and they love doing what they're doing, believe it or not, some of them may love it, some of them may not, but some of them actually is what it is. This is what they love. To reach out and say, look, stop doing this, stop doing that. It's going to go in one area, even if they feel encouraged at the moment and say, or discouraged from doing what at the moment. But if that's their lifestyle and they love doing it, I don't see any impact us in, they know, but they got friends, they got families, they got loved ones that's 35, 35 years, 40 years. So that's not discouragement within itself. I don't think it's any punishment out there that can discourage. So what would be the incentive for them to stop? I don't know. But the conversation needs to take place. I've had conversation with probably children from, well, not children, young men from old different gangs, and the response, the feedback that I've got that is they all have individual issues, is different issues why that they do the things that they do. So to paint a broad, take a broad brush and try to go over it without actually executing complete wisdom, it wouldn't amount to anything. I think it needs to be, it's so hard to explain about it, being on paper and in concrete, because like I said, these are just brainstorming ideas. But it has to be some sort of incentive, like I said, for those that's out there. If somebody's love doing something, it's hard to, probably be an impossibility for them to just stop because I see it or you see it. And on the other hand, you have this that's lost brothers, friends. It's a tit for tat, and to say that a complete stranger like myself to say, no, bury that, don't worry about that no more. Look at me and say, you know what, for what? So we have to be realistic in our approach to this thing because it's very deep. It's deep rooted emotional issues, mental. It's very deep. It's a deep trauma.
Thank you for that. Are you able to contribute any information that might discourage our young men from engaging in this antisocial behavior and taking each other's lives?
Well, my personal experience is that I've been locked up majority of my life. Everything that I know about life is through reading books and different things stuff like that. This sentence, I've had over a decade. I've done over a decade, but throughout my life I've done probably close to 20 years, and this has been through a life of pain, not just for my family and my loved ones and those around me and myself, but for the victims' families and the community as a whole. It's wounds that only heal once you relive it, and that's the most painful part of the healing process, because you can't be of assistance to others if you're still broken. So first you have to unbreak yourself, or fix yourself. And once I began to do that, then I found myself being of assistance, capable of being of assistance to others. But this path leads to nothing but pain. If we claim to love our parents and love those around us, but our actions say otherwise, because at the end, we destroy our mothers, the ones that would never turn our backs on us. We hurt them because our grandmothers, our aunts, everyone that we claim to love, we hurt them the most. And that's what I've experienced. I put my mom through tears, a river of tears throughout the years. I watched my old man cry the first time when I got sentenced. And those was defining moments, and seeing my nana cry and everybody else. Those was defining moments for me, that it actually gave away my life for people who don't give two craps about me. And I traded it for people who actually do care about me. That's what made me wake up, and I started realizing that there's so much more to life than what I've experienced. And what I've experienced wasn't much outside of this island. I never knew so much things. Like I said, majority of things that I know about life, it's through books. And that's how I live right now.
Do you have any contribution to share with this community group about the causes of the things that led you to engage in this antisocial behavior?
with me, my story differs in the fact that um, I had deep rooted issues that I never knew that I had until I came here. Like I had serious like mental and emotional issues due to things that was happening in school and out of school, and I was very introverted, so I never had an outlet for these things. And so over time, you let negative emotions build up over time. It eventually comes out, and it comes out in aggressive ways because most of us didn't have a father figure in our lives. Not saying that's an excuse, but a man can show a young man, look, man, you don't have, that's because you feel angry, upset, disappointed, or embarrassed. Your response doesn't have to be with aggression. I was never taught that. I was taught somebody embarrass you, you do this, or you're angry, this is how you react. That's what I was taught due to, not from anybody in particular, but due to what I've seen and these that was around me. Actually, that's what I feel like that's one of the main problems is what's really raising us. Speaking from experience, we could say that, because we lived under a household, my mom or my nana or whoever raised me. But what really raised me was the things that I was feeding myself, what I deemed to be cool and popular, those who I associated myself with. Whatever spent the majority of my time with was what actually raised and instilled principles in that's rap songs and different things like that. What I deemed to be real and cool. That's what actually raised me. It raised me to the point of complete destruction, like drugs and a whole heap of other things that came along with it. So to keep it brief, I've experienced nothing but pain, and I had to go through so much to get to where I'm at. And it might not seem much to the next person, but I've came a long way. If you didn't know me, you probably wouldn't see that much of a change. But it's been a journey, and however I can be of assistance, I'll be more than willing.
I thank you so much for that. I thank you for your honesty, and I thank you for this valuable contribution, because knowledge, a lot of the knowledge that this community needs is in this community, and you remain a part of this community, and you're valuable. So I thank you very much. All right, I think, given the time restraints, I should listen to the next uh, person who's going to speak from the correctional facility.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
First of all, I'd like to say appreciative of this platform here. The platform here for to help our community bring about change. I'm currently serving a 12-year sentence at the moment for a crime that I honestly did not commit. But I honestly feel due to my past run-ins with the law, my brushes with the law, I was already actually guilty and convicted in not just society's eyes, but the judge's eyes, the prosecutor's eyes, even the lawyer's eyes. And be honest with you, like, I see how due to my past, even though like I say I'm here for the time of something I didn't do, I see like how your past, I won't say it now really gets away from you, but these young men out there that get caught up in different activities, they're thinking that it's cool, etc., and all that, but they don't really know what comes with the stigma. And once you really get it, you're like, you try to build up this reputation for yourself, X, Y, Z, and you find yourself ensnared, stuck like myself now, trying his best to fight his way out of it.
So are you able do you feel comfortable to discuss with us some of the things that you think caused causal issues? Um, that
Honestly speaking, like, I mean, to really, to really address the deep-rooted issue, I say we have to go back to education, man. We gotta start instilling in the youth some sort of identity and worth. Because honestly, like me growing up, my own personal experience from primary to middle school to high school, I never really felt significant. Like the things I was taught in school, I mean, it was only what, 1 month of Black History, February. I don't know if the curriculum's changed since then, but I was told a bunch of called Christopher Columbus, white this, white that. And I remember one time I asked the teacher, and like, why am I being taught this? And the teacher told me, don't ask that question. So like, you got different individuals that don't know how to articulate express themselves. And that just got suppressed and all these different angles that are really feeling lack of self, like low self-esteem. And piggyback on what the first brother said is like once the sugar gets fat, it starts to faster and build up and build up and build up. You don't really know how to channel or that just not split. So like if we really want to see some sort of change, we gotta fix the whole educational system one, instilling in these guys like they all worth something. And then we was once kings and queens and all that. We gotta show them that they are of value. So I know what it feels like to not feel that way, right?
Thank you for that. So, are you able to share anything? And obviously, I don't want you to do anything that you're not comfortable doing. But are you able to share your reflections, your considerations on how these choices, this lifestyle has impacted you in your relationships with family and loved ones? And
Yes, of course they can. Like I shared maybe from the beginning, like I'm currently sorry on trial sentence for a crime I didn't do. And like I said, due to my previous run with the law, sometimes family members get tired, like you keep going, different things happen, so they get ostracized from loved ones, Like it's like, do we really believe you? Do we do like so it's like
some people, I think, may feel that people who have committed violent crimes don't care about the other people or their family. Are there any reflections that you're able to share, either personally or from what you've observed?
from what I'm observed, yeah, everybody, right? It's not just you, the inner, the loved ones, the victims.
No. No. All right. So is there any other pertinent information that you'd like to share that might help discourage um, our youngsters from picking up weapons, devaluing each other's life?
Anything I could really say is like, all I could pretty much say to the youths, like being honest, is like, I can't like piggyback on what the first brother said. Like, you can't just tell these guys, look, just after been doing something for so long, you've been doing something for the last 10, 12, maybe 15 years, and just say, hey, stop this, stop that. Like, it has to be some sort of, like he said, incentive. Like, like at the end of the day, everybody's quick to put the thing and say the youth, the youth. But nobody really realized, like, this shit almost started from previous generations just trickling down, everything's just brewing into each other's process. And because the youth this, the youth that, but nobody really knows the backgrounds, what they went through as a youth coming up, trauma that experience. You know, you need to take all these things into consideration, you know? And like, the most I could say to them is like, until you really find that time for soul, like me personally, like even though I've been wrongfully convicted, I must say, like I understand why I have to come back. I understand. I reflect on all the things I went through, trying to change my life, and then like being put back in there. It's like it's sort of discouraging, but I understand why these things have happened. You know? I just wanted to let them know, like, once you're hurt, sometimes you're just forgotten. People forget about you. Like it's not just only like oh shit. Like there's so much I can explore on, like you know. Lots to explore.
Yeah. Well, this is a complex issue, and there's a lot of work to be done. I thank you so very much for being brave enough to share, and I'd like you to know, like I said to the first man, you are still a part of this community. Your value, what you think is important and can help us. And I thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you. I think we have one more person from the correctional facility. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, good evening.
All right, so we can hear you loud and clear. Are you able to share with us um, anything about the serious consequences associated with making poor choices that has led to you being incarcerated?
I'll just say when it comes to these serious consequences, that the basically just got no freedom, no privacy, and no peace of mind. So what you want, then sign yourself up for prison, basically.
And are you able to share with us how that has impacted your relationships with family and loved ones?
And you see, the impact that I see is created a lot of dependency between by myself. I see it creates dependency for me because now I'm went from being all a sole provider or whatever of the family to now, hey, I need this, I need that. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you call so? Can you call my lawyer? Can you make sure this is done? Print this, photocopy that. Everybody becomes your secretary in a sense, and it's draining. It also causes people to not want to like answer you sometimes. So it really just creates a real separation and the acceptance of the dependency and the separation. It has a permanent effect and damage on both you on your side and family on their side.
And do you have occasion to reflect on consequences to other families or victims, either personally or at the facility? Is that something that is reflected on?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes. What I guess what I'm saying is very often the impression is that persons who have committed antisocial crimes don't care about the effects of that on their victims or their victims' family. Are you able to share anything on that from what you've felt or observed at the correctional facility?
I would say it more so depends, and when I say depends, it means like just something happened to you and that person didn't care, then you would automatically, whether you want to or not, just can come to your conscience. Why should I care if something happens to them? I'm supposed to grieving mothers that said like they wish that part, and they don't wish that. So it's all about how you feel in a moment. Because you can forgive somebody in a moment and then go back a moment later and say, yeah, I don't forgive that person anymore. Now, did you really forgive him? You could have really forgiven him for 5 minutes and been at peace for 5 minutes. And then just that heartbreak takes over everything. And you're right back to your, I don't care what happens to him. And then he goes down the road, gets an accident. But that's the person that done something to your family member. So, serves him right, calm us this, whoop de whoop, and it goes on and on. So, I think it really matters on the actual situation and the current emotion that your brother being through.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting perspective. You're basically raising discussion about what's happened before.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So are you able to share any pertinent information that might discourage our young people from becoming involved in gang activity or other antisocial behavior where they're taking each other's life?
I would say I do have a solution and an opinion. I would say it's a solution, but then when you just speak to people, it becomes an opinion. But I feel like it's got to be a collective effort that comes from the community in itself first. If we ain't got the community, then we ain't got nothing. And when I say that, I'm speaking back on when you used to have a village raising a child, and anybody could correct their child. You doing something on the side of the road, you're stopping the car right there, cut ass right in the street. The song dead, but it changes the way that you go. You look across the street not for traffic, but to make sure somebody you know is not looking now, because you don't want that person to see you no more. So it goes so many ways in that regard, just dealing with collective effort from the community and the village. Might not like it, but I feel the government system needs to be held accountable for all their wrongs. Education system being one of them. No funding or support beyond the sports education. Is so many different angles that take people away from where they was. I was an international athlete, whatever after that, but there was no funding going on or after this, you can't first 10 years straight. Boy, I'm got some medal for it. I haven't been given a pizza lunch or something to say Bermuda thanks to. Nothing. So I'm seeing friends of mine that still run internationally get sponsored by another country. Still trying to figure out how that makes sense. That a Bermudian is running Olympics sponsored by a Jamaican group. So when it comes down to it again, government, that's how I feel. They need to be stepping up when it comes to the responsibility for the people. Or step back, and I know it might sound harsh, but let the people conduct what they need to conduct for each other. This conversation is a scary conversation to be held, but it's got to be held with those affiliated and those that's not affiliated with either crime or systematic rulers that have to go on in order for us to abide by certain laws, whatever the case may be. But I feel that we had a real forum that had everybody in the room. Nobody could say, oh, this person, no, all heard. Nobody could lie, nobody could hide, and the truth will be revealed to society, not this party, this group, that group, but everybody as a whole, and we could do it live. Nobody could hide from it. And all answers are gotta get answered. Questions are gotta get answered, sir. We get to technology. It's the most dangerous thing that's been given to us, because we ain't been given no manual besides how to turn it on and off. We don't know the damage it does to the psyche. We're just really learning how matter works. There's so much things that will just influence you beyond having real social responsibility and respect for the person that's next to you. Because you're just walking with your head down nowadays versus before where everybody's greeting each other right there and then in person. You probably walk across the person that can help you with your struggles because you're in your family. And you'll never know because you stay in your family. So we're losing social communication because of technology. So with all these things, I wouldn't blame the younger generation, because a lot of these young kids right now that's committing crimes or being accused of committing crimes, dirty loved ones or offsprings of deceased fathers and grandfathers and victims, females have been hit. One of these kids could be a child to the mama. There's so much that they seeing, grieving and pain, and if there's no help being given and they're asking for it, then when you want them to change, all you're gonna expect them to change. First thing they're gonna say is, well, I asked you for 2 weeks ago, you told me no. Now you want me to put my conduct. Yeah, right. So where we get with not listening to the youth no more, and then expecting youth to listen to the elders. We're kind of doing what the legislature said to ourselves, and we still don't realize what we want to act and speak like we're so good. So, I mean, once we stop chasing status and material gains, then we can really have a real conversation about what the solution is. Because until then, there's always going to be a mission and a goal of status and material growth for you or your family or your colleague or your Ponzi scheme, whatever the case may be. As long as you got that end goal being some kind of status or material growth, you can forget about the ones underneath. And until you realize that, the ones underneath can keep doing what they're going to do to get somewhere close to where you are.
Thank you so very much for your honesty. Thank you for sharing with us, and your community values you. And we thank you for your contribution. Thank you very much. Good night. Good night. Go ahead, you wanted to say something? Are you still there? Okay. Thank you so much. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for listening. There's an old saying, when I do good, nobody remembers. When I do bad, nobody forgets. I also want to thank Commissioner Joe Benjamin. This was an important first in my view. I know that it took some bravery, and I know that at this hour of the evening, there are security concerns as well. So I thank you so very, very much. A lot of food for thought. And very, very often we forget that those members of our community have valuable contributions to make. We always think that it's gotta be someone from outside or somebody who's credentialed. I think a friend of mine reminded me the other day that it was the amateurs that built the ark, and it was the professionals that built the Titanic. All right. So I thank you very, very much for your kind attention. Having said that now, we're going to talk to some credentialed people.
Thanks a lot.
Everybody has something to do. So, our first panelist is the Honorable Justice Juan Wolf, and I will ask that Mr. Wolf share with the group this was a gentleman. Yes.
Can we dim some of the lights, please? possible?
Say it again.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First of all, let's give it up again for the young man. Very candid story. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't like doing these things, but anyway. First of all, let me also thank Sean for putting on this, also the committee for the lecture series, for putting on this rather important conversation that we're going to have today. I also want to thank Sean for using a very flattering picture of me that was taken probably about 10 years ago when I had more hair and less gray. But thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank Sean for putting together this rather august body of gentlemen. It is an absolute pleasure. I'm in awe of the panel of people we have here, Dr. Douglas, Quentin, as well as Mr. Hill. So give it up for them as well. So when Sean asked me to do this, by the way, I'm only got about 15 minutes, so I got to speak real quickly. So when Sean asked me to do this here, I asked him a question. Sean, do you want me to be the stoic judge up on the bench, being very diplomatic, or do you want me to be raw and ruffle some feathers? And he said the latter. And so I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you want me to be the judge on the bench, or do you want me to be the raw person? I can't be too raw because my mother's in the audience, and she'll probably set me over the head. I get too raw. But being raw also means having a very, very uncomfortable conversation. Are you ready to have that?
Yes.
I'm going to probably ruffle some feathers. I do not apologize beforehand. Understood? And I got broad shoulders, so you're going to say something to me is quite all right. So one of the things which I want to talk about today is our collective responsibility. We can talk about the sole responsibility of these young men and why they found themselves where they are. That's a conversation for another day. What I want to talk about is what have we done or not done to ensure that these young men end up where they are. One of the most difficult parts of my job, and I said this last night, is to incarcerate our young men. Why? Because some of the most talented, creative, articulate, and you heard it tonight, young men reside at number 1 Malabar Road. For those of you who don't know, number 1 Malabar Road is the Westgate Correctional Facility. What you heard tonight, I see every day. Men who are articulate, men who could be lawyers, could be CEOs, who could be engineers, who could be educators, but yet they find themselves incarcerated. And why is that? As I said, we can stay here all day and blame them, but nah. We gotta blame ourselves too. As Michael said, we gotta look at the who in the mirror, the man and woman in the mirror. We gotta look at ourselves and have an honest conversation with ourselves and say, how do we contribute to this demise of our young black men? So I'm gonna bookend my presentation to you then. This is more of a conversation, by the way, with you by a quote. It's a quote by Frederick Douglass, the great African-American social reformer and statesman. And he said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." How many times have we seen in our lives, in our families, broken men, and we did nothing? So, what I find quite interesting is that we have just come out of, or we're coming out of a pandemic, but yet we've been faced with an epidemic for the last 20 years. And we will continue to be in that epidemic unless we do something, and do something like right now. So, how did we get here? Well, we're going to talk about some root causes. By a show of hands, I'm going to go through some of these here, but by a show of hands, let me know whether these sorts of issues exist in your family or you know of them being existed, okay? Just by a show of hands. Generational family dysfunction. Warring and feuding parents as a result of rage, bitterness, and resentment towards each other. High percentage of absentee or unknown fathers. By the way, I can have a conversation about that all night. I'm not going to do it tonight. Parents who have never had a meaningful relationship with their child. I'm going to skip across them. Neglected children who have feelings of abandonment. Lack of minimal parenting skills. I don't see too many hands going on. Be honest, Okay. Lack of relationship, interpersonal, and social skills. And it goes on and on and on. High percentage of mama's boys. No hands. High degree of hopelessness. Hello? Not working. I'm a mama's boy. That's because I'm a mama's boy. Lack of marketable or any job skills. Materialism and individuals living beyond their means. High cost of living. Yes, right. High levels of drug and alcohol abuse. And you heard some of this coming from the young men who spoke. Again, I can have another conversation about materialism, how we have glorified sex, drugs, and what else? Violence. Through social media, through videos, through books, so on and so forth. And we watch this happen. The problem we have now is not something that just happened when we woke up yesterday. Didn't happen this year with 8 murders. This has been festering for many years. And we as a country have failed our young black men. How have we failed them? We have failed them by not putting in place programs and tools that will allow them to strive. We are some of the biggest enablers in the world. What are we doing in our schools? What are we doing in our workmen clubs? What are we doing in our churches? We want to clutch our pearls when something happens, but yet the next day we move on with our lives without putting anything meaningful in place to ensure it doesn't happen again. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
We fake indignation about what's happened, but we sit idle with chronic forms of inertia. And why is that? We're going to have this conversation tomorrow, what we're going to do. Now, I accept that some of us in our own sort of way are doing what we need to do. But what are we going to do once we leave here? Is it just going to be a conversation? Or is it going to prompt us into action? So, when we talk about all these different social issues that are the root causes, it's obvious. You cannot build a sturdy house with a bare foundation. You heard these young men talk about trauma. We heard these young men talk about mental issues. And by the way, let me just say this here. I am talking about the young men who come before me in the courtroom. I am the last resort. By the time they come to me, there's already been some deep-seated issues going on. We are the depository of society's social ills. So by the time it gets to me, in some cases, it may be very well too late. But we saw the foundation being rocky. And we did nothing. You know, it's funny, it's not funny at all. We have We band together quite nicely during a hurricane. We batten on the hatches. We go help each other out. We just had a Hurricane Fiona, and we got together. But yet, with our social ills, we treat it as if it's like a summer breeze on a summer's day. We don't get ourselves into action to deal with something that's tearing us apart. We got to start treating our social ills like we do a hurricane, but every day. Every day we got to batten on the hatches. Every day we got to help each other. And when I say help each other, I'm not talking about going out there and joining a charity. I'm talking about within your own family. By a show of hands, and some of you are not going to show your hands, but I'm going to ask you a question anyway. How many of you have children in your family who are at risk? Stop lying. How many of you know a kid who's at risk? How many of you in classrooms with kids who are at risk? And what are we doing about it? It's just reading. No. Johnny's got something going on. Johnny may have been sexually assaulted by uncle. Johnny may be struggling with some sort of depression. Johnny may be having some real serious issues of abandonment. Johnny has no dreams. What will you do? We call him rude and do nothing. I tell a story every now and again. I've had multiple situations where young kids who are at risk have been identified in the courtroom at, say, 7 years old, and they graduate or matriculate to the big court. But we saw the problems at 7. And we wonder why Johnny's out there doing ignorance, doing attack. So, I'm done. I'm in good time, too. So, complaining about a problem without posing a solution is called whining. So, Madam Ombudsman already said that it's a complex problem. Just get my emotions. We already said that it's a complex issue. I'm just offering one part of it, one dimension, because there are many different solutions to deal with this very complex problem. My part, my contribution to the conversation is that we must have a full frontal approach to stop our young men from falling into the abyss of hopelessness. Because that's what it is. You heard it in the voices of the young men who just spoke. This level of hopelessness. Spending the next 10, 15, 20 years. So what do I think? I think that we need to have a robust, comprehensive, and sustainable life skills component embedded in every school curriculum, every government assistance program, every church organization, every workmen's club, etc., etc., etc. If we can spend money, I just can get really controversial. I'm not going to do it. Yes. No. Sometimes my mouth doesn't engage my brain, so I gotta be cool with that. Right. So what does this mean? It means giving our young men the opportunity to demonstrate independence, demonstrate self-advocacy skills, engage in social interaction, and so on and so forth. And I have a list of them. Identify angry and stressed feelings. Identify responsibility to family and friends. Demonstrate attentive listening skills, coping strategies, how to deal with disputes. Demonstrate healthy ways to express needs and their wants. Accept constructive criticism. How many of these these things resonate with you. Recognize and avoid unsafe situations. And it goes on and on and on. Understand strategies for working with coworkers at work. Identify ways to respond to customer concerns. Construct a personal budget. Washing clothes. Cooking food. All these things. And it doesn't have to be all of that. You don't have to provide all of that, but extract from that something. And in doing so, you will give these young men a feeling of hope and want and need. But most of all, it sounds kind of corny, but it's so true. Love, man. It's a four-letter word, but it speaks volumes. Show these young men love. Sometimes tough love. Because tough love comes with, hey, I see you, Dread. And so, we're talking about love that is meaningful, real, and unconditional. And I'll tell you why. Because if they're not getting it from you, who are they getting it from? Take your choice. I said I was going to book you in my conversation, right? And his parents looking at me strangely. I've got 3 minutes. It is easier to build strong children than to prepare for. Say that together, please.
It is easier to build strong children than to prepare for men.
Listen, I'm encouraged by you guys being here tonight. I know that you will, in your own special way, ensure that this country is the country that we know that it can be. I'm very hopeful. Listen to young men tonight. I'm inspired by that. I want to hear more of those young men, but outside the confines of a prison. We are still a good place. Believe it or not, we are. We're still good people. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we get caught up in our own little business. But we are still Bermudians. And with that, I just want to show a video which some of you may have forgotten. Thank you very much, everybody. That's my time.
Thank you very, very much, Justice. Just had one question arising. So it seemed as if there was resonance in the audience when you gave some practical, like the life skills training, the reinforcing of hope and the like. We know that those are all important things for parents to do. One of the missing pieces, perhaps, I'm interested in your view on it, is that the people who should be in position to provide that may themselves need it.
So one of the, thank you for that question. One of the biggest challenges we have in the courtroom is that there's a lot of efforts that we have, and I'm pretty sure the teachers can relate to this. A lot of efforts that we have in the courtroom trying to rehabilitate and in some cases rehabilitate young men. The problem that we have though is that the minute they leave the courtroom, they go back into the environment in which we have created a dysfunction in the first place. And so, and that's probably a challenge I would think as well for the commissioner. that all the work that they do at Westgate to try and prepare persons to transition back into society, the problem is what are they coming back into? And so what we are now looking to do in the courtroom is to try and engage the parents into various programs themselves, so that they can work out their issues, they can work out their, let's use a better word, they can work their stuff. And so that when Johnny comes back home, he's come back to a healthy, productive environment. Because if we don't do that, then we can obliterate everything that we've accomplished in the schools and in the home. So it is definitely a full, multifaceted approach, not just involving the individual, but involving family members as well.
Thank you for that. All right, can I invite Mr. Sherlock to come? Mr. Sherlock, before you commence, would you like to give a brief infomercial to your audience, your community?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out, and Mr. Shields and organizing committee. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm Quentin Sherlock. For the last 9 years, I'm living in Ghana, West Africa. And to many, even my family, they think I'm on the way from something. But not realizing that what I'm trying to do is to be part of the solution. So yeah, I'm going to Africa, talking about Pan-Africans, teaching people in Africa the white man's sport. But it's the same thing that's opened up so many doors. There's a time, I know this ain't what you asked for. There was a time when, I dropped out of school, had my dreads, rusted this, rusted that, fired on one education, fired on golf. But it struck me in 2011. After I returned, action at Bermuda College, following my passion, my dream, playing professional golf. And I remember right in 2011 on a beach in Morocco, saying this thing is the thing that brought me to Africa for the first time. And this is the thing that I thought I didn't have to do if I wanted to understand this. So I'm there, I'm the executive director of ASIC Foundation. It's an NGO where we work with young people in the semi-rural community. We try to empower them through education and sports. Now, people in this community in 2015 didn't even know who Tiger Woods was. And as I talk to them and interact with their parents, I could care less if any one of them makes it to the PGA Tour. I know that through golf, they can get an education. Through their education, they can change lives, themselves, and their families. Not one of the children I work with, I run a wooden house. Not one of them. They're innocent, they're happy. And so, we're doing the works there. I'm grateful for the support we get from family and friends at home. I'm grateful for the number of readings that have come through and passed through those gates, and even those that also setting up shop on that side. And I just think that, sometimes we have to be open-minded with ourselves and just take a step back and look at what somebody's doing and not be so quick to judge people. So, yeah, big thanks. I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like that river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Shay Jennings. The Trey Doman. Keith Gordon. Lajay Franklin. Kiyoshe Robinson. Marcus Wilson. Damon Bell. Kanye Ford. And everybody was surprised when they saw me coming dressed in a European suit tonight. Everybody assumed I'm coming dressed as an African garb. My point is that it's not what's on the surface that matters. It's what's inside. There was once a time when we as the Black community were ostracized, set apart by the mainstream white society. And for literally centuries upon centuries, lies and false narratives about our so-called primitive, uncultured, and undisciplined nature were used to justify the mainstream white society's position and actions towards us. However, within this very same context, along with our allies, we were able to develop institutions to nurture our young, to fine-tune our adults, and to entertain our elders. These institutions were created by us, were led by us, and ultimately were for us. As a community, along with our allies, we were able to establish strong families. We were able to establish strong churches. We were able to establish strong schools, community social clubs, community workmen's clubs, and even friendly societies. And yes, I am speaking specifically of the Bermuda experience. These institutions were the linchpin of our community, in spite of what we were held back from. Sure, not everybody was a member of a friendly society. Not everybody frequented the workmen's clubs. Heck, not even everybody went to church. However, it was the work of these institutions and what they did in our communities that held us all together, and even were the ones creating the opportunities for us. It was through these institutions that we were able to establish, transmit, and pass on our shared and collective values, norms, and priorities as a people. And ladies and gentlemen, in spite of what we were kept from, through these institutions, we as a community thrived. We were able to produce our own teachers for our schools, to educate our children, our own businesses for our communities and our societies, tradesmen for our neighborhoods, nurses and doctors for our sick. And history will record that when necessary, we were in a position to even bring in our own quote-unquote Black expertise to service our community. Now, none of this would have been possible if we weren't organized. None of this would have been possible if we weren't united. And we couldn't have done this if we hadn't, amongst ourselves and our allies, developed a culture, a way of life in which we again thrived. When these institutions were all that we had, and the responsibility for raising and nurturing our community clearly rested upon our own shoulders, history shows that we did an excellent job. History shows that we developed mechanisms and systems, and that we had developed our own culture. And all I mean by culture is we had developed our own way of life, our own way of living. And I would say, I should have started with this, that these indeed, my caveat, are the views and opinions of Quinton Shara, not the views and opinions of Bermuda College. So I don't know anybody from Bermuda College responsible for anything I say. It could be argued that the Black community in Bermuda was better organized and more united however, 50 years prior to desegregation in Bermuda. It can be argued that the Black community was much better organized and united than what we've seen in our past 50 years. However, in spite of this, in spite of what could be deemed and identified as progress that we had made amongst ourselves and with ourselves and our allies, we still felt shunned. We still felt that we were missing out on something that mainstream white society possessed. Therefore, we worked hard, and indeed, those that have come before me sacrificed plenty, as we say in Ghana, to prove them and ourselves worthy of acceptance into mainstream white society. And I dare to say that upon the acceptance and or admittance to mainstream white society, we turned our back on a lot of those very institutions that we had developed for us and on our own. We seemingly thought that the institutions of mainstream white society would be able to hold us, would be able to sustain us, and I guess ultimately make us a better people. We thought that in becoming a part of mainstream white society, as the late great, as they would say, Dr. Martin Luther King insinuated, that a promised land awaited us on the other side. But our problem was that that promised land was never for us. And in aspiring and in ascribing towards that promised land, we have slowly destroyed the very thing that made us who we were. We ourselves have slowly dealt the life-threatening, murderous blow to the essence of our own community, to the essence of our own existence of who we are as a people. Thus, we are here in 2022, some 50 plus years after reaching Dr. King's promised land, having to gather and now ask ourselves, why is it that our sons are murdering each other? And I just ask, what type of promised land is this? Moving forward, I postulate, or I believe, that we need to rely less on the managers of mainstream white society. Irrespective of the pigmentation of their skin tone, as a colony, Bermuda can be thought of as a slave ship. And even though we celebrate having taken over and having been captaining this slave ship since 1998, maybe with the exception of 4 years, the most we have done, or the very thing we seem to be trying to prove, is that we too can be good stewards of what they have established. Our leaders have continued to set sail using someone else's star, heading towards the very same ports of call that those who had arrived on and with the ships set off for. Our community, our young men are crying out for redirection. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, in the face of the cannibalization, if that's a real word, of our young black men, we need to understand that we are the problem. But in that, we should also understand that we are the solution. We need to understand and see that there is something fundamentally, something so fundamentally wrong right now in our society. We as a community, as the late Dr. Amos Wilson would say, are out of our minds. There is no better explanation than to say that we have indeed lost our minds in the process of assimilating or assimilation into mainstream white society. Part of the answer, in my humble opinion, is that we need to go back to those things that worked for us as a community when we knew we had nobody else to rely on, when we knew that if we didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. And this starts by firstly taking back the responsibility for our community. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, all of the answers lie within and not outside of ourselves. I will close with an African proverb. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Give thanks for your time and attention.
I have a question for you before you take your seat. So I think you brought your perspective from Bermuda and the Pan-African context. I guess the question that I have is, as a community represented here tonight, if we say that this is a crisis, what steps do we need to take now? What direction do we need to go in now to address the crisis? Because if it's a crisis, then we can't have a talking shop for another 5 years. What steps the community begin to make now?
There are a number of things that can be done. Let me firstly state that, as I said, the first step is to take back the responsibility of our community. And the most basic fundamental unit of a community, of our community, are our families. And we must take back the responsibility of raising our families. Little things that once seemed meaningless, of having known that 7:30, you better be in this house to eat this dinner, boy, or else something else is going to happen to you. So at a very basic level, imagine if you insisted that everybody that's under your household was in the house at 7:30 and at that dinner table for 1 hour, 1 hour and a half while you eat dinner together. What that can then create and lead to is examiners. Also, just to kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture, a lot of the institutions that I referenced or mentioned in my presentation still exist. I'm not saying go back and rehash the wheel, because even in my experience in Ghana, they call me Obroni, white man, foreigner. So we are different, we are changed, but we need to take our experiences and learn. Not everything is one way. So a lot of these institutions, it hurts my heart when I sit on top of the hill and look at certain ranges. They are there. But again, who amongst us is going to be willing to make that sacrifice, to sit back in those seats of leadership, and, as the Honorable Judge had mentioned, put in place the structure, programming that is needed for us to take the responsibility and take back our community and help to nurture our young, fine-tune our adults, and entertain our elders.
Thank you very much. Much food for thought. Our next panelist is going to be Mr. Kadri Hill.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to ask this beautiful lady to read that poem for me just one more time. And can, however you feel. Good.
Written off. That boy is gonna end up dead or in jail. So don't try to tell me he can turn things around. Because the more I think about it, he's throwing his life away. And I'm not gonna say he's a good kid. Let me tell you, there is no hope for him. And I refuse to believe there is some good in that boy. Because whenever he crosses my mind, I think there's only a matter of time. Written off. There's only a matter of time. Because whenever he crosses my mind, I think there's some good in that boy. And I refuse to believe there's no hope for him. Let me tell you, he is a good kid. And I'm not going to say he is throwing away his life. Because the more I think about it, he can turn things around. So don't try to tell me that boy is going to end up dead or in jail.
Good evening, Bermuda. I'm that boy. Also, that boy that symbolizes and stands for hope for black males of Bermuda. 14 years ago, a tragedy showed up on my doorstep, and my family and I wasn't ready. It broke my heart that my life was torn apart. I am forever grateful for Bermuda, for the love that you shared, my family and I, during that time. It is greatly appreciated and it will never be forgotten. For the people who would just see my mom in town and just give her a hug and tell her, be encouraged, keep your head up. She didn't know these individuals, but they knew us. And they knew us because we was placed on front stage of Bermuda's history of the first time a group of teenagers had murdered a teenager. That broke my heart. But to my mom, I love you. And I love you because you love me first. I love you because you believed when I didn't believe, or nor did I want to believe, that I was called to something far greater that I could ever think or imagine. I am that boy. But Mom, for the first time, I want to say, I'm sorry. Those words to my mom have never came out of my mouth. That I am sorry for the things that I put you through when I didn't even know who I was. When I was trying to be something that I thought that is what I wanted. When I thought that some of my greatest life's achievements would be underneath the streetlights, or sitting on a wall, or rapping for something, my mama believed. My mama prayed. And Mama, the reason why I'm sorry, and the reason why I never could utter those words, because no words could describe how I felt when I saw your life forever altered. And all I ever tried to do in the last 14 years is live my life with action. That my action, that the way I walk, that the way I talk, that God will show up in me. So, Mom, 30 years. I'm sorry. So, your paradise, my prison. Who can relate to Bermuda being a paradise? Is there anybody who can relate to Bermuda being a prison? Well, growing up for me in Bermuda, it was a prison. I couldn't even hold certain jobs in Bermuda. I couldn't go to certain areas in Bermuda. I couldn't go check a girl, take her for a date. I couldn't participate in harbor nights, football games at National Stadium. All this was a no-go for me. And if I chose to step out of bonds, then I had to be ready for whatever came with it. And I lived that life. A lot of trips, a lot of fights, a lot of brawls, a lot of close calls, a lot of trips to the ERs, a lot of war wounds, a lot of scars that I still carry today to remind me from whence I came. But one of the biggest scars that I carry is not having my little brother here today. But Bermuda, if I be real, if Calvin was here today, then I wouldn't be here today. And my little brother, whose life was cut short, full of life, brilliant, intelligent, ambitious. He could have been anything. And all I tried to do was live my life to give you Callum because you didn't have the opportunity to meet him. But in this room, I may be familiar to some and a stranger to few. But anybody that knows me knows that this is not how the story started. So, the amount of pain that I have seen on the island of Bermuda has broken my heart. I've seen fathers whose lives were gunned down before they had the opportunity to let alone see or hold the firstborn son. Gunned down. I'm only seeing and I'm praying, God, if you're real, show me right now. Bring him. He didn't make it. I'm seeing one of the biggest OGs that I looked up to who were gunned down in the Christmas holiday season. I hung out with him all day. And he says to me, scared. It's 8 o'clock. You better get off the strip. And I said, get off the strip? Like me? I'm outside. I'm hurt. I'm ready for whatever. And he said, scared. Get off the strip. Something then told me to dap up this young man, to get on my bike and to ride off. And 5 minutes later, to her that his dead, gone down. That could have been me. If I would have played I Ain't Gotta Move moving 5 minutes too late, that could have been me. When I think of other individuals who are 30 years of age and they lost their life, and they tell me to my face that my son, my 4 or 5-year-old son, is my best friend. That's a lot for a black man. Because a lot of men today don't even have relationships with the kid. And here he was, taken from his 4-year-old kid. And then I watched the man that brought me into the world, life be forever altered on August 9th, 2008, when I watched my dad put his son, his youngest son, into the grave. Bermuda has not been easy. Trying to navigate the space of trying to be a man of purpose, trying to be a man of promise. You see, the individual standing in front of you today is the individual that I wanted my little brother to be. I wanted him to be better than me. I didn't want him to get involved in the things that I was involved in. I tried to protect him. We looked the same. And I didn't want nobody to mistake him for being me. So, that night, when my little brother was heading out to a party, he begged me to use my bike. And I said, bro, I can't give you the bike right now. I can't. Come on, man. I'm just going to a party. I didn't want to be that brother who was, stuck up or, didn't want to have no fun. So I said, all right, man, go ahead. Take the bike. I said, what could he possibly get himself into from Saturday evening to Sunday? We're on a plane. My little brother never made it to that flight. Tuitions paid. Bags were packed. A young man full of life headed off to university. Never made it. So what did I do? I never wanted my little brother's death to be in vain. So it encouraged me to live for everything. As a young man, I didn't care about whether I lived or whether I died. I didn't have no respect for myself because I was so immersed in what I was doing. I felt that if I died on them streets, then that's what I wanted anyway. But go ahead, a different plan. My little brother wasn't able to go to university. I did that. My little brother never had the opportunity to walk across a stage and grab a degree. I did that. My little brother never had the opportunity to get married. I did that. And my little brother never had the opportunity to bring life into this world. I did that. Matter of fact, I have twins. And I believe God gave me one for me and one for him. Because too much is given, much is required. Why am I even telling you guys all this? Because my purpose was birthed out of his death. And people don't understand, and people don't know it, who a lot of things close to my chest. If anybody really knew me, I don't speak on too much. But that blow for my little brother was personal. And if anybody knows me, they know that I played arena. They know that I don't back down, I don't give up, I'm coming. And when is that real? Just know I'm coming. Before my little brother passed, the shadow of death was on my back. I actually dreamt it before it happened, that I wasn't going to make it out the summer. But that story, that dream, it played out of a different script, different characters. Instead of it being me, it was my little brother. And I told my mama 2 weeks before he died that I didn't want to live anymore. I'm ready to die. I'm ready to go. I can't move around Bermuda. Nothing's happening for me. I can't live around her. I can't do it. And God, if you ain't going to take me now, then let me show my little brother a new way of living. And God said no. He said, Cadre, you need the new way of living. And I'm going to use your little brother to show you how I need you to live. The lessons that you told him, you live it out. You do it. When I asked my little brother, before he about to graduate, and he missed the mark for a little bit, I asked him one question. Do you want to be a gangster, bro? Like, what's this about? I'm at the barber shop. I'm got a fresh haircut. I'm ready to come to your graduation. What you mean you ain't telling me you're not marching? What's this about? Oh, I don't know, man. Nah, but that ain't acceptable, bro. We win, bro. We win. I said, you want to be a gangster, innit? You want to be a gangster, right? And he nodded his head to me. And he said, yo, I want to be a gangster. Just like that. And I was like, bro, you know, I'm out here risking my life. I can't move. And you want to be a gangster? I'm doing all this, so you ain't got to do this. But that's what he wanted to be. But in my household, we didn't grow up like that. So who did he see it from? He saw it from me. I was that person living that life. My little brother was very special. He is very special. And when he grew up, from ages 1 to 12, he carried his Bible. I could never understand it. It never made no sense to me. Bro, this is not cool. This is not what we do. You need to pack that away. I'm way, way too cool for that. Now I take my Bible just in case I get bored. Well, I'm not Bermuda. My little brother's beginning will be my ending. Because he took my ending, then I'll take his beginning. And when I saw him on the operating table, as I had barged through the doors and tried to get to my little brother and tried to save him, I couldn't protect him. I couldn't save his life. But in his death, I found my life. And I desired to live for everything that he could not live for or experience. I told my little brother, and it was all said and done, that I will settle the score. And I pride myself to be a man of loyalty and love. And if I give you my word, I mean it. I'm not being changed, I'm not being fooled. It's my word. And for 14 years, I have been trying to give my little brother my word. It's a slogan that I live by in my head. It says, respect the promise. I promised him something. And what what I promised them is that I will settle the score. But how do you settle the score, Bermuda? There's so many murders in paradise right now. Something that was so foreign to us, our island, is something that becomes so common now. How do you settle the score? Do I pick up a knife? Do I pick up a gun? No, that's not the word I chose, because I like to win. I like to win big. And because I felt that the blow was personal, that you wanted me, then I said, yo, here I come. I'm coming right at you. So how did I choose to deal with this space? The next day after I found out what happened to my little brother, God asked me the next day to forgive that young man. And I could not understand it. He asked me to forgive him. So for 14 years, I already knew what my assignment was. I just wasn't ready. I had to heal because I felt that I had shared my brother a life that led to his demise. I thought that some of the things that I was doing was some of the most glamorous things that I could do. But what I've come to discover that when you live your life in purpose, that's glamorous. There's nothing more beautiful than doing whatever it is you was called to be or called to do. So when they say to you, like, where you're from, what's your name? Everybody can answer that. But if I say, what's your purpose? Everybody would probably take a pause. But what is it, Bermuda? What is our purpose? I find mine through pain. So in closing, all I want to say is that when God asked me to forgive, it was because I had been forgiven. This individual that took place in murdering my brother, that could have been me. I could have been issuing the fatal blow to somebody else's kid because I was living just like that. And when my little brother died, I was able to walk away from a life that I didn't have to live anymore. I could walk away like, you know what? I'm done. But I chose to want to listen to the assignment that was given to me. And how do you win, Bermuda? You win when you can walk out of a negative situation into a positive situation. That's a win. If you can walk out of a negative situation into a positive situation, that's a win. But if you can walk out of a negative situation and embrace a man who murdered your brother, they share the same last name. Lose a coward, embrace a coward. That's how you win. That's how you win. That's how you win. I'm going to leave you with this quote. Until the lion learns to write his story, only the hunter receives the glory. I'm that lion, Bermuda. A hunter does what? He hunts, and he brags about what he's done. And he hangs it up on a wall for everybody to look at it and be awed. What does a lion do? Hunt. But a lion also protects his pride. Bermuda, I stand here as a man who's willing to protect my pride, to protect my young generation of brothers coming behind me, because I once was a part of the problem Standing here today, I'm a part of the solution. Thank you, Bermuda, for everything that you have done.
Well, I don't have a question. But I do want um, to comment on the piece of healing and forgiveness, because that is an integral part of what is going to be required in order for us to stop this madness. So I thank you so much for sharing that, and I know that the Bermuda College is looking at how we can, as a community, begin the process. So I thank you for sharing that, and we will be getting more from you on that. Thank you so much. All right. So, audience, it's been visceral. It has been visceral. And I didn't want to be the first moderator to cry. And so I've been staying the course. But I think it may be useful for us to just take a 5-minute pause before we bring on our final panelist, Dr. Douglas. So you can stretch, you can use the facilities, you can cry in private. And just take 5 minutes for us. Okay, your family. Again, your Bermuda in 5 minutes. So I think we need to settle down now so that we can resume this important discussion. Okay, can I ask everyone, even important as big shot ministers, to take their seats?
He didn't hear you. I'm going to tell him that one.
All right. Let's settle down as welcome Dr. Tyrone Douglas.
Good evening, everyone. Put your hands together if you've had a good time thus far. If you had a good time, grateful to be here. I just wanted to start in a slightly different way. Actually, it's not really different because Sherlock actually sort of gave us a little taste. But I just wanted to just help to shift it as we come back from the break. It says, "From my side, This battle looks lost. I'm constantly falling beneath my cross. Now I fought the good fight of faith till I was told this battle is not yours. God is still in control. I had to learn to let him fight in my place. He didn't slow me down. He quickened my pace, and for that I won't walk, I will still strive. In his word I will abide. I won't faint, I will stand strong. Even if I stand alone. And if someday I may fall, I'll just look back and recall when I was down in this fight. Our God led me to the light. I wanted to start there tonight because if you're anything like me, you can sense that we're in a fight. Anybody feel like we're in a fight? I think it was Media Maya who asked me last night if I was to use one word to describe what I think is happening or where we are as a country. And the word I said last night was transition, but I want to just amend that, Mr. Sherlock, and say I think we're in a fight. I think we're in a season where we actually have to decide who are we going to be as a country. And so I just want to thank you for your presence tonight. You're here because you care. You're here because you want to be a part of solutions. I also want to just share right from the beginning that I think that these conversations also need to go into other spaces like the barbershops and the sports club. We need to have some of those spaces because for many people, returning to a classroom like this, and I'm an educator, but returning to a classroom feels like returning to the scene of a crime. They never felt good about school. And so there's some of us, we walk in these spaces, we feel comfortable. For others, they don't. So I want to make sure that we continue to move forward, as we continue to move forward, that we think about the spaces where we need to engage. I'm a teacher, all right? I'm a preacher a little bit too, but I'm a teacher. So I'm going to ask that you take out like your device. This is okay if you can write something down, because I believe tonight, as fruit of our conversation, we're actually going to engineer some of our own solutions. I need you. Okay, so you're looking at me. Yeah. No, I'm a teacher, and I'm asking you seriously. Like, can you take out your phone? If you have something to write. No, are you comfortable with that? My nana's in the room. She said, "Are you comfortable?" She says all the syllables. Are you comfortable with that? I would like to suggest that for many of us in Bermuda, we're not really comfortable engineering our own solutions. It's easy to say, what's the United States doing? Just send us that version and we'll just sort of plug and play. Well, what does England say we should do? What would they do in the Caribbean? And so when I say to you, I'm inviting you to engineer your own solutions. This is not like hyperbole. You're trying to be cute. In fact, everything that I share with you tonight, Charlotte, can I tell them? Everything, for the most part, that I'm going to share with you tonight came from us. It's yours. I got emotional tonight because I realized, like, I've been giving talks like this all across the globe, and people love it. But like, there are slides I could take out because you know what Bermuda looks like. You're over the peak sand and blue water. You know what that is. I mean, the accent thing. I mean, like, so this is our moment to begin a process, or to continue a process that has already begun, because I don't know soon, of us thinking of what it looks like to own our own narrative. To ask asset-based questions instead of deficit-based questions. My colleague, Dr. Ivory Tolton, is a professor at Howard University. He talks about how a lot of times we ask the wrong questions. His book is entitled No BS, No Bad Stats, No More Bad Stats. Because a lot of times the narratives about our people and our communities are written by folks who don't understand us and never thought we were fully human anyway. So the title, if you see my talk here, it actually came from us. And I want to just give a shout out. Hopefully he sees it. But there was a gentleman. I was driving down Princess Estate, and I was coming out right this truck, and there was a truck that was trying to come in, and like the guys who were working the truck, I don't think they were Bermudian, but there was a Bermudian guy who started to pull up, but he didn't see what happened before. I actually tried to back up to let the other truck come in, but the Bermudian guy just sees me afterwards. Sort of when the truck people say, "No, you come," and they started to back out into the road. Now, Bermuda guy pulls up and drives and he looks at me, Georgie, and he says, "You know better." I'm a teacher and I'm a curriculum developer. So for me, when he said that, I felt something. I got a little defensive. I wouldn't like, but I'm thinking, shoot, I'm gonna fly. This guy's gonna know I'm Dr. Douglas. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about your boy. It was you. Okay. Early in Bermuda. Did you know it was me? Okay. So I mean, it's such a teachable moment, right? Because there's something special about proximity. So let me just tell you, like, you know, we were the first Facebook, right? We've always had that connection. Everybody's in your business, they can see what you're doing. It just wasn't online. But I want to just acknowledge you because what you did was actually powerful. You said, "You know better." And I thought, like, you could have said, "What's wrong with you?" Different question. But you actually gave me an asset-based challenge that made me reflect on it, like, "Hey, what's my grandchild trying to say to me?" And what you were saying was, I should remember, I live in the States now, so forgive me. And I really did try to back up and let your boy in, but you were saying I should have continued to advocate because they weren't Bermudian, and I should have said, "Yo, you come this way because you don't want him to back into the world and kill one of our youths on a bike." I got it afterwards. After going to my feelings. And so I want to challenge us, Bermuda, to consider that you know better. What's your name, sir? Mr. Jones. Thank you. We know better. Can you say we know better? We know better. You might want to tweet that. You might want to, that might be something, but we know better. We do. I'll just be honest with you. I want to just acknowledge our presenters. Have you enjoyed the conversations, the presentation? Can you affirm our presenters one more time? Our moderator. Come on. Mr. Sean DeCio, he made this thing happen. Can we acknowledge our university president, our college president, Dr. Dorinda Green? Thank you for each of you, our board chair, all of you are here. Thank you. If I can, I'm going to just tie it together. I just want to thank my village who's here. You know who you are. Every single person in this room who is here, who's been a world on my journey. I appreciate you. I just want to make sure we can highlight a couple of things. So one of these I think we should take, if you missed the earlier presentations from what Judge Wolf shared, he said that there is honesty, there's a power of honesty when we begin to look at the problem, you know, with just an honest man. The power of honesty in looking at a problem was one of the things I took from what you shared. You talked about the foundation. You laid the foundation for us tonight that I appreciate. And I love all the amens and all the that you got when we were talking about the fathers and the you know, right, all the steps, didn't we? You got a large amen corner, didn't you? Okay. But if we're honest, can you be honest? If I can be honest, can you just say, keep it 100? If we're honest, there's also another part to this, and that is that some of us have also been challenged by being raised by, and I love my mothers and aunties and uncles and grannies, but some pain-ridden women as well. Can I say that? Yeah. And this is not deficit-based, because you know we understand that we've come through a great struggle, right? And so it's like we've tried, but I'm just saying we have to be honest about the reality. It's not just a father thing, but there's some other conversations that we had. So thank you for giving us that context. In addition, something you also said that's powerful. He highlighted the value of us understanding how we respond to a hurricane. If you talk to anybody at Delwood Middle School, or I was at Barkley Institute today as well, I was at Whitney Middle School, I'll be at Cedar Bridge tomorrow. One of the things I try to make sure our young people understood is that we're special. Like what I'm trying to highlight while I'm here, I leave tomorrow. I'm meaning up, but I'm always thinking about Bermuda, literally. When I open my presentations around the world, I start with proud to be Bermudian, and I sing the Bermudian part. They're like from all different countries. Let's say Bermudian. Oh, you know what I mean? Because I experience the best of us, and I know brilliance when I see it. We sleep in it every single night. Like those houses that you have, they're not just pretty, But in true Bermudian fashion, because we're stylish, they're pretty, you know what I'm saying? Got the pastel colors and the white roof. Like, that's how we do. But we're also strong. Do me a favor, when you get home, do a comparison to how the United States is talking about the hurricane that's coming their waves. I don't want to be disrespectful. I live in the States, you know, I've got a U.S. passport as well. I don't want to be disrespectful. But we're not talking about sandbags and stuff around here. They'll build like whole contraptions to sort of keep the waves in the roof. You know what else are called? Reefs. Why am I? No, that's important. Because there are things that we've built on our own that are amazing and powerful. Like our houses are mathematical marvels, right? But there's some things that have protected us that weren't made by man. There's some favor. There's a creator, I believe, who set us up so that there's some reefs that sandbags are trying to do for the United States. And so when you listen to that, I need you to understand every single day. If I was trying to give you one of my key points, if you're taking notes, I asked you earlier, so if you're not getting it right now, you're disobedient. But one of the first things I need you to take from tonight is that Bermudian accidents is in our face. It's everywhere. Like, I need us to see it. Bermudian accidents, write that down. We need to help our young people and our families to see it, to know it, right? That's number one. So I also want to acknowledge Quentin Shaw, thank you for reminding us about the power of reinvesting in our spaces. Not every space was made for us. And there's something powerful about our spaces. And we need to have an asset-based lens as we look at our spaces. The notion of black and brown spaces being less than, and that's not new. And we've always had to fight. And so it's powerful and important that you remind us tonight about the importance of reinvesting in our spaces. Thank you so much, amongst other things. And the country, man, you messed me up a little bit tonight, bro. He's my cousin. I love Country. We have a powerful connection that was forged through life's challenges, where we choose to be family. Because not everybody that's family, you choose to be family. We got the opportunity to choose to be family. And he talked about the power of I'm sorry. You write that down. Like, was I the only one that was, you know, sort of got the snotty nose, cried, and shaky bottom drawer when he started saying I'm sorry to his mama? Some of you are waiting for like the slide that says all the solutions. I've given them to you already. I hope you saw it. Someone's trying to figure out, like, how do I fix this thing? I'm trying to figure out how this young black male in my family or young black or whomever can figure this out. Cadre lets you know, he modeled it for you. He didn't just like, this wasn't like some little cute little textbook answer. He literally showed you an example of what that looks like. I would like to submit to you that if you want to reach our young people and reach our families and reach our community, starting with I'm sorry is important. Our faith spaces, our churches need to say, I'm sorry. One of the participants that I interviewed in my dissertation that became Border Crossing Brothers, the book that, you know, that got books awards and whatever, again, that came from us. That book was us. I just repurposed us. Including a young man who talked about the reality that when you can find dichotomy in religion, you can find dichotomy in everything else in your life. His words, not mine. Dichotomy might have been too big of a word. You get it? Now, when you can find division and confusion or tension, because he was trying to figure out like this whole thing, like when he found that there was division or confusion in his family or in his faith space, he thought everything else must be phony. So we have to say, I hope you wrote that down. Thank you, Cadre. You also show us the power of grace, the power of hope. Tonight, I just want to transition and give you a framework. It's a Bermudian framework. It's yours. Oh, it's sort of mine, but it's yours. It's ours. How about that? And really, it's grounded in reality that I don't just do research. I've done that. But I do what I call research. And I want to invite you tonight to do some research. Like tonight, this is not just a conversation that you just need. Like I need you tonight to really take a picture, write some things down. Make sure you cite me if you do take a picture and post it for your boy. Just so other folks don't steal it from us, right? But I want you to begin the process and engage the process of really studying your journey. And I also want you to consider, because research is my story, what's my why? What's my reason for engaging in this work? Who am I? Research is what's their story. You can read all the research you want. That's important. Well, I'll talk a little bit about mine tonight real quick. But I want you to also think about the research part. That's the you, our story. For example, that's the Bermuda story. That's the Somerset Cricket Club story. I'm gonna say George's fans. I mean, that's the St. George's Cricket Club story. Like to really, like if you want to study and like figure out your success, you gotta really like study what you do. So like the research is an opportunity for us to consider the collective's journey and narratives. Are you with me? When you do so, you get a chance to do what I call border crossing leadership, or more specifically, those three bring together we call free search. So I'll get to that at the end. But I want to just also give you a little research, because sometimes people read my bio and they just talk about the 5 books and working at the #1 public university and earn a PhD, multiple master's degrees and all that. That's not the story. Peter Philpott, that's not where the innings began, sir. Real story is that my mom was a 19-year-old college freshman when she went to Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama. And she found herself having to decide between a degree in nursing or a degree in me, in a very practical and personal way, to the extent that she was literally at the abortion clinic. I want to be respectful, because some of us have had different experiences in space of that, so I want to be sensitive. That's my me search. And it was at the abortion clinic that she felt me move for the first time and said, I can't do it. And she decided she would come back and face the scrutiny and the shame and the realities of religion and being disfellowshipped. And the pastor meeting her at the screen door and not saying I'm checking on you, but saying your name was taken on books. And I'm not trying to speak against religion. I'm a part of a faith system. But I'm challenging injustice in all its forms. And I was blessed after the service because they didn't bless illegitimate children during the worship experience. I'm talking about saying sorry. You want to really feel this stuff? Like, why don't you have like a mass consecration prayer experience where you lay hands on every child that was told they're not legitimate? And say you were born for greatness. That was her story, and it's not just her story. Multiple, I'm talking about generations. You also talk about generations. My nana would tell you her story. 19 years old, got pregnant with my mom. And back then, people also told young ladies, well, maybe you should, do something to take care of the problem. At 19, here, I'm giving out a solution. Here's how it shifted for me. They were honest with me about my journey. So at 19, I wasn't perfect. But I knew that was a cycle I needed to break, and 19 was probably around the time that I really need to be careful. But I'm asking you a question though. Did you tool her with the information to know when that ball out the back of the hand was coming, Mr. Horton? It's the quick delivery. They kept setting the trap. They get him every time. He looks like he's sitting there. Boop, got him. And it's happened to our families over and over again. So I want to just give you a quick, I'm going to move quickly now. I know I'm over time or getting close to time. All right, good. Thank you so much. All right. And I want to make sure you can actually consider as well. I want to also acknowledge the gentleman who spoke, the men who are currently incarcerated. You hear the difference? Different from any other language that would describe them as their identity being, get me? Thank you for acknowledging their humanity and letting them know they're still a part of our community. And one of the speakers, he said something powerful. He talked about the power of asking why. He asked why, and he was sort of basically told, like, why are you asking why, right? And that happens to a lot of our young people. In fact, that happened to me at certain times in my journey. I'm so grateful that I had teachers like Miss Davis. Miss Davis is actually Miss Adams. She read the poem tonight. Miss Davis, where are you? I appreciate you. My P5 teacher at Pageant Primary. I should have celebrity on our Pageant Primary group chat because we had this little pre-grad competition. I was the pre-grad. We got some receipts, and that was true, right? But I'm talking about teachers that allowed us to ask why. Young black boys want to understand why. Don't just tell me what it has to look like without giving me context. And they didn't squash the researcher in me. But I would be lying if I said it was an easy journey. I struggled to find my value. And so you look at the journey, you'll see, from young, I might not have said, my mom sent me to Tucker's Nursery on Power Pass. You see your boy at Pageant Primary with the shorts up, those are tough times. You see the boxy haircut. My Uncle Harry's here. I think he may have been the person I should blame for that. That does look like Ricketts. I'm talking about the journey of being a black boy in this country, especially a dark skinned one. Let's talk about that colorism piece. I'll just put it out there because you already know, but there's some challenges that we face when we don't quite fit in with what whiteness or white supremacy says is valued. And the further you are away from it, the further you are supposedly from being fully human. So there were spaces, though, that counteracted that were vital to me. Spaces like the barbershop, the church, the neighborhood, the sports club, athletic spaces. Those are the 4 spaces that I call in my work, check it out, community-based pedagogical spaces. And they're like, dissertation of the year, book of the year. But I was just talking about Dandy Town. I just repackaged it. I was talking about workmen's. I was talking about the Bermuda Regiment, right? You know, I was in the band, you know what I mean? I was talking about the Wesley Methodist, like, mom put me, dad, they put me in all of that stuff. Track and field counts. These are, come on, they like, you know these days, your kids were in these spaces too. And those spaces kept me sane when I was struggling. Every time, I just want to make sure I had a receipt there for picture chef as well. So that's actually for my video, I'm saying, right? And now I work at the #1 public university. If I'm honest with you, I wanted to go to Berkeley in Bermuda. I did. But my mom wanted me to go to Work Academy. And there was a particular reason she wanted me to go there. I'm not sure if I should say it in this speech. I don't know. She wanted me to know, I'm not going to say exactly what she said, but she wanted me to know how their systems work. Exposure, one of the keys that came from my study. She wanted me to be able to navigate this corporate, you know, this white supremacist space, especially when I was there. I didn't do it better now. I love the Work Academy. But it was a hard place to be. Marissa, I saw you. It was hard for your boy. I'm just being honest, sis. It was hard for you. I know you had a different experience from me, but it was hard for your boy. And there were other spaces that kept me balanced and sane to the extent that now I didn't get to go to Berkeley. But I got to work at the Berkeley. The Berkeley. But now I get to work at Berkeley. And you produced me. Your schools, your neighborhood. What am I saying to you? This is the #1 public university in the world, or at least in the United States, according to many metrics. And they're not out kicking me. Like, in other words, I'm coming with ideas and visions that were nurtured in your space. So I want to make sure you can get that. There's a quote there you can see, and it says, if you can touch it, you can catch it. My question is, as raised to our young man, like, can they touch it? Do we have a clear sense of what success is? Have we defined that for our community? And you'll see some of the names and faces that you probably recognize from school that I get a chance to work with. So here's what my research revealed. If you really want to think about how to form healthy Black male identity, this was our work. Interviewed 12 Black comedian men who were amazing. Shout out to the participants in the study. Thank you so much for your participation. There were 4 particular variables that are key and critical in that process. And one is expectations, positive and negative. Can you say expectations? What are your expectations for your sons? For our sons? For our cousins? For your nephew? What are we expecting from them? What goals are we setting for them and are we also giving them access to the process? Experiences and experimentation. I was down St. George's Creek Club on Sunday, so this young man who was in the, who was there, right? He was working on like a little fence area, and just when I was in the yard, I could see he was just experimenting. And he loves that. And it's the same kid that would probably say he hates science, but on his free time, he's doing science. There are teachers in the room. I want to make sure you also know who our audience is. So for me, there are different audiences that we're talking tonight. My audience is parents and teachers and community leaders and politicians and others who really want to help to think about these solutions in an asset-based way. So as we re-engineer our solutions. Third one is exposure. Say exposure. Positive, negative. So if someone is listening who wants to be a part of a solution, you want to be a part of a solution, I'm going to give you one. Fund an opportunity for young Bermudian males to go and visit campuses and other spaces in other parts of the world so they can see the Black experience in the diaspora and know that they're brilliant. How about that? Fund that. Fund that. Write the check. Write the check. Let's build a curriculum. Let's find a way for them to be, so they get to visit Ghana. They get to visit California. They get to visit the University of Missouri where I was a professor. They get to visit Selma, Alabama, and the work of Brian Stevenson, right? And then finally, number 4, expression. Can you say expression? So we have a lot of young people that would say they love football, right? But they hate math. Why? Well, on the football field, you get celebrated if you step on the ball and push the ball to somebody's face. You got to express yourself. When you score that girl from Bermuda, come on, baby. You grab your jersey, you score that girl from Somerset, you know what I mean, right? You get to express yourself. It's celebrated. Would you agree? For the classroom, that's not the same context that you get, or the same way that you get celebrated, right? So young people enjoy spaces where they can express themselves authentically. And if you have a chance, read the book, but Flourishing Black Identities is also the next step in this. I won't go into that. But we also have to think about not just forming identities, but flourishing identities. And the next step in my thought process is, how do we finish? I'm not going to read all of this. I hope you will in your own time. But this is a quote from one of the participants in my study. I'm still talking about the research piece. But he talks about the reality, in his words, this is a quote, that Bermudians are suffering and smiling. I tell you, these guys are deep. Like they should get the PhD for real. They actually are PhDs. In fact, let me just say this. For many of you, you're craftsmen, you are carpenters, plumbers, whatever, you also PhDs. I just want to affirm the brilliance that's not always affirmed through traditional educational process. I just want to affirm that, say that out loud as well. That's another piece of solving the problem. This gentleman says, we're just doing it wrong as if all is well, and we're really not. We're being taken advantage of, we're being disrespected. We're standing for less, we're eating food that's not healthy. We're living in toxic environments, but we're smiling. We're smiling in part because we have enough money to keep smiling. We're like the cocaine addicts. I've seen 2 types of crackheads. The one crackhead who don't know where his next $50 is coming from to get the crack. He's looking bad. He's never smiling unless he's hitting right at that time. The cocaine guys who come in the service truck are functional crackheads. They're suffering and smiling. Nobody knows I'm on crack as long as I get my hip before I start scratching. That's what it's like in Bermuda. Everybody's trying to keep up an appearance. I can stop everybody here and say, why are we suffering? And everybody will give a different reason, and they're walking away smiling. And you know why? Because they know what they're having for dinner. And they know where they're staying tonight, and they know what channel they're watching when they go home. Another participant made the connection. He talked about just this notion of like being in a country where tourism was the foundation of our industry, where we basically had to smile and grin to make tourists feel good, but then you're going home and you got 2 families. That's what he was saying as relates to the fake that our kids see, and it shows up in the family dysfunction that I'll talk about tonight. And then there was also this quote that I read from Governor Hope, and in a letter in 1722, Governor Hope notes, he says, "No slaves in the West Indies are used so well as the Negroes are here in Bermuda. These Negroes are so sensible of the happy, plugging, suffering, and smiling situation they are in. Comfortable with having some of the trinkets because we suppose they have more than other people to our south who are just as brown as us but don't have maybe some of the economic opportunities that we have." That's what they were challenging us to consider as I looked at the data. So my question to us as we do research is, what's the our story? What's the Bermuda story? I want to ask you that. I want you to write that down and reflect on it. There are others who are doing research. I want to give a shout out to Gina Spence Productions. Miss Gina Spence is here. Thank you so much for your presence and your work in our community. And it's our organization that I learned that as of August 1st, 2022, there were 78 children who lost their parent to a gun or gang-related violence since 2008. So there are folks who are also doing research in our community. And I think we need to tap into those resources. No egos, tapping in. Gina Spence Productions also has a crisis care team that wraps their arms around the children. How do we connect to this stuff? So I want to make it practical for you because I'm an educator. I'm a teacher first, right? I want to ask you a question. What do the following individuals have in common? Jacan Ennis, Gennaro Tucker, Treadwell Gibbons Jr., Alan Douglas Jr., Jonte Smith, Malachi Jones, Arunde and Nice Basco. What do they have in common? Okay, cricket. Good. Tough match. Your old man. Go to the head of the class, Mr. Wade. Did you hear what he said? Come on, man. Lead in real quick. Can you say real loud for everybody? Shout out real loud. And more specifically, so you can say these guys are cricketers. They weren't just cricketers. They all played cup match. And their fathers played. So we know how to do it in cricket, in cup match, as relates to multi-generational excellence. How do we engineer and re-engineer and scale our brilliance in other areas? I'll give you football too. McKee Wells, Reggie Lamb, Connor Smith, Paul Rip Cam. What do they all have in common? Football, professional, no guts. I know some of these wanted no guts. Special people do. They were all players for Dandytown Football Club. And if you want to go further, if you analyze this, they were all attacking players. Now, I can't take credit for this alone. I want to give a shout out to people like Devon Boyles, who's done an amazing job as the president of the club there. He's a visionary. And one of the things he pointed out when we talked, he said that like these guys, like if you look at different teams, you will see that certain teams produce certain types of players, right? And so when you look at our clubs, you could say plug in PHC Zebras. And I say names like Stephen Ashwood and Kyle Lightbourne, like strikers, PHC, right? So again, if we take the time to study our success, we will see patterns that are worthy of replication. Are you with me? Yeah. Awesome. All right. So real quick, you get this. I love when I say this in the States, where I'm like, all right, we can't continue to ask questions. I say to them, questions about the fish. And I say to them, we have to consider the, come on, Bermuda, come on, let me down. Come on, I need to say it, all your point off. And we keep blaming these fish. And Americans, they always try to say that. I make them say it like a Bermudian, right? But we have to ask questions of the systems and structures. This is not a problem about black boys, black males. This is an unhealthy society. And we haven't figured out how to repurpose the pain and do something productive with it. Similarly, I want to make a connection. My colleague, Dr. Janai Smith, brilliant scholar, graduate from USC in California. She's a Bermudian who works here. And one thing she pointed out about our trash collection situation, she said Bermudians get frustrated because the trash doesn't get collected as often as they want. And they get mad, like, catch, watch all the catch, and what she said is, our problem is not trash collection. Our problem is that we produce too much trash. Do you see the reframing? I'm trying to teach you, or I'm trying to show you, like with the examples of cup match and then the clubs. Like if you break this down, if you look at your family, there are certain things that your family's always done well. I wanted the grass fish cake today because it wasn't just about the sun, but it's the. My family, when the helping for fashion, it makes sense that multiple generations you produce a Dr. Ty Dollars because my uncle's done it. Like, what's in your family? What's in your sons? They can feel it, but if you don't give them permission to let it out, then we keep blaming them instead of challenging the. This came from you. This is sweet. This is sweet. I love this. This came from you. This came on this trip. So, like, I'm a scholar who like gets immersed, and when I get immersed, I just get vision. This is sweet. I want you to consider tonight, and I will share this in another audience. This is what you gave me on this trip. I want us to think about what does it look like to determine and direct Bermudian success with intentionality. Think about that. Let that sink in. And this is something I'm applying to my life. I'm closing. But I want us to think about, like, because we do great things, but I don't think we study what we do enough. And I don't think we're intentional replicating it with intentionality. And so a lot of what we do, I would describe as a thought. It's an idea. It's a concept. Come on, Jamiko. Right? You got to do your homework. You got to get better because it's an idea that I guess you got to get better. You got to do well in school. I guess is what I should take from that, right? Have you done your homework? It's a thought that I think somewhere in there you're probably saying that education matters. It's an example. Are you with me? Ms. Davis, are you with me? All right, if my P5 teacher's with me, then we're good. We're good, right? It's a thought. Can you say it's a thought? And then some people get it because it's just a thought, and they figure it out because they get caught. It's caught. You hang around Dandytown long enough, at some point you're probably going to say no guts, right? You hang around Somerset Cricket Club at the heyday, and you're probably going to be, you know what I'm saying, playing great football. Great. Like if you're in the right space, exposure, you may get it, you may catch it. But that's still passive. Are you with me? It's important, but it doesn't work for everybody. So can you say, yeah, it's cool to get caught, but they must be taught. That's explicit. That's intentional instruction. That's building curriculum that says, here are the steps. And then is it sought together? Not you saying, oh, well, you didn't do better, but they're looking at how you're living your love life. Parents, come on, can we be honest? And they see contradiction. The participants, they see dichotomy. So the question is, are you an example of what you expect? I know it hits me too. Because I'm having these conversations with my sons. Like we're having honest conversations where it's not sufficient for me just to expect because I'm a professor or because you told me education, because I take this to everything. But am I teaching you how to actually be financially literate? How does he learn about life insurance unless somebody tells him? How does he understand that schooling and education are not the same thing unless I make sure that's explicit? And I'm asking you, you need to look into this and be honest with me. Honestly, Mr. Wolf, right? About this continuum of not just having a thought, not just being caught, but we have to teach and we have to ensure that we are seeking it. I'm almost done. I came by to make sure that you could consider this. This is my sort of big idea. If I was to share like a big idea beyond what I've shared already, I believe that as a country, we need to identify national pillars. Pillars that not just conceptualize, but clearly articulate who we are, what we value, and what it means to have a quote-unquote successful median life. And there's space for variability and perspective and nuance. But do we know what it means to be successful here? Do we? I think some of us have actually achieved, quote-unquote, the Bermudian dream, whatever that is, because I'm not sure we know what that is. But we feel like we haven't, so we continue to live like we're not good enough. That's frustrating. Because we have men and women who've worked all their lives, they're in retirement now, and they're looking at their lives and saying, what did I really do? But the fundamental question should have been, who am I? And what matters, and what's most important in my journey? So I want us to consider some national pillars that are ubiquitous, that are everywhere, that you can see them, that they're in every barbershop, in every church, that they're on the placards on the side of the road, and sort of like keep Bermuda beautiful. Like, I don't drop trash anywhere in the world because of KBB. I just thought they got your boy. One of the participants I studied, he said, say no to drugs. Like, he just remembered it. Like, so, hey, let's go back to the basics. Like, what are the pillars? And can we see them in every space that matters? So maybe it's faith. I would suggest faith is important, whatever that looks like for you. But a vertical faith, perhaps, and a horizontal faith measures to community and an individual belief that we can. Are you with me? Would you agree that family is important in our country? That's what COMEX is about. When you score that 50, it's not just about you scored the 50 and the family and the fans run out. It's about you did it in front of your village. They'll collect their hand. That's my nephew, you know. That's the hat, right? Family matters to us. Finances. Have we been explicit in teaching our young people about finances and not on some materialistic stuff, because we've got a problem there. But I think we have to be intentional about the reality that, like, we're in an expensive place. We get to see the horizon, the water. So like, there's some financial realities we have to consider to enjoy this beautiful rock. And it's important to us, isn't it? But it shouldn't be our God. That's the difference. Would you agree that fun is important? Yeah. Bermudians are funny. Like, I love us. If I have more time, when you got a chance, look up this video by Shante Toy. She's amazing. It's like this video about the hurricane. Have you ever seen anyone seen the video? Yes. I wish I had more time. I would show it to you. I love her. I'm gonna show it to kids. Like, teach them to study the video because it's an amazing example of like pedagogy. But we're funny. And we like to have fun. So how do we do that? How do we be safe doing it? Food. Don't we like to eat? Yeah. Is that a pillar, perhaps? Yeah. Finding our path. We're going to college. Many paths. Choose them. Right? I'm going to word in line, right? But how do we help people to find their path? Maybe that's a pillar. And then how about the future for our youth? Like the next steps in the journey. And then how do we finish strong? How do we take care of our elderly? How do we help people to end with dignity? If you notice, We live in houses, but take the scholars that say you should also study how people manage their dead. Bermudians in Bermuda, we literally build a house. Like it's not just some, just dig up a hill and just chop people in. We literally build a hill with a white roof again. For all man spaghetti, even in death. So perhaps that's a pillar that we should consider. I'm going to move on. I want to just be real swift, real quickly now. Stay with me. You have to write this down. I need you to consider the epistemic violence. Fancy word, but we've had experiences that have challenged how we come to know things. Colonialism has impacted how we see ourselves. White supremacy is real, and I'm not trying to be unkind, but white supremacy suggests that white is right, and anything else is just sort of a knockoff. That's not an attack on white people. It's a reality of the history of our country and the history of our world and the history of just the experience of being in the West, right? It's something we have to consider. Epistemic violence is real. I want us to consider what that looks like for us. We have to also consider who are the people, who matters in our country, who deserves to live a good life. And consider before Black people can earn property, we have to stop being property. So I'm going to ask you a couple of free search questions. I tell you about me search, research. We do what I call free search. I want to ask you some free search questions. I want to ask you, like, what's the goal? What's the vision for our young people? Seriously. Have we communicated to our young people about the vision for who they are and what they're working toward? I think we got lucky with Karika Weldon, Dr. Weldon. She was an answer to a generational problem. Her family probably put in straight to work, academy shot against work, but again, I mean, that was sort of by osmosis, perhaps. People were intentional, but do you realize what she was? The gift that she was to our country? Are we preparing for the next pandemic now? Through how we invest in our young people and the vision we have for them. What are we telling them they're living for? Because they're not afraid to die, many of them. Because they don't know why they are here, why they're living. What's our national vision? Again, I'm just asking the question. These are free search questions. And our vision for them must be communicated, and that communication must be stronger than the music and global cultural forces that suggest that life is whimsical and to be played with. And I want to get real personal. I'm getting your business on this one. Because this is something you can practically take from tonight. I want to challenge you. If you can't do this, then we can't, don't talk about any more panels and conversations about what's wrong with the Black males. This is honest. I don't want you to spread it. Like, I want you to spread it. Like, when some people come and they start talking negative or anything, I want you to say, death and life is in the power of the tongue. Speak. Here's a question. Are you speaking life? Let's stop talking about these young men shooting each other and killing each other about words. So I want to ask you a question. If death and life is the power of the tongue, then what is our culpability? What's the culpability of each of us who speak ill of each other on our island daily? That's my challenge to you. I'll skip that. That's for teachers. Another time I'll break that down for our teachers. But I just want to close and just get to the conclusion here, right? That, like, do you remember getting cable TV in Bermuda? Yeah. I do. I was excited. But can I be honest with you? I think we failed as a country at that time. Yeah. Because there was no intentional creation of a Bermudian filter that said, hey, yo, I know some of those folks that you're seeing on TV, they look like us, but they're not us. And some of the values and some of the things that they're doing and what you saw in Rap City, that's not us. But we didn't do that. We embraced all of it. We're inundated with it. And we never, as leaders, as stewards of our country, we never created something that said, here's your Bermudian filter to understand, process, discard, eat the watermelon, eat the loquat, and spill out the seeds. And so if we didn't do that, then that's on us. And that's what we're seeing right now. I want to suggest the code factor front is insufficient. You gotta study yourself. That's how we live. We're the faiths, or we're the faith carriers, we're the faith leaders. And you wonder why we're just sort of at the whim of the United States or UK or whomever, whatever they say, okay, I'll be adjust. Okay, it's international, okay, it's tourism. Who are we? Then we decide to be intentional about our future. I want to ask this came from you all too, right? Without division. There will always be division. You got that? If there is no vision, the people perish. So I want you just to consider these topics, these considerations, Because again, it feels different. Young people say it hits different. That's can you say, oh, if you want to get cool with young people, I think you better get old enough. But can you say it hits different? Can you say that? Just try it on your kid. Probably a good like connector, right? They'll say, "Mama, you sound corny. Why you saying it hits different?" Go to them and say, "Well, this conversation like hits different." You try that? Yeah. All right, good stuff. Right. But like being borrowed hits different. Yep. Being bribed, being bartered, being bought feels different than belonging. They feel different. So we have to decide what's the Bermudian dream. We have to decide like what's the dream beyond the piece of the rock. We have to decide like if two trips a year goes away because of a pandemic, what are we really living for? We have to decide that like if the job goes away, like and we get redundant, where does our peace come from? We have to decide if we have the will and the skill. Someone said the will, someone said the skill. We make sure that we have folks who are working with our community that have both. We need to build systems of healing, asking new asset-based questions, challenging injustice on its forms, transforming courageous leadership, system of self. We have to begin to see what's not comfortable for us to see. I want to close with a short video, literally really short, and we're done. All right? Just give me that look like I'm gonna pull you. It'll be worth your time. Because I need you to get the visual. I've been telling kids all around Bermuda about this. Can we plug in the song real quick? I will make sure you can hear this. You gotta feel it. You gotta feel this. Come on. I think it might be good. Let me try it. Let me see if the song's working. Let's just see. Okay, let's do it. New song. How many else might be good? I want to make sure we get this song right. We need this. We're tied all together. Thank you for your pick. Are we learning anything? Is this working time? Yes, I came a long way. I took a red-eye flight. I'm gonna fly back, so I'll give you all I've got. I'm leaving it all here for you. I want you to see this. I want you to consider again that Bermudian accents is all around us. All right, check it out. Feed it. I'm gonna close with this. Hope this sound works. Come on. It's working. I'm gonna refresh this real quick. It's working. Hopefully it works for us.
Rose Walsh.
All right, here we go.
And take a photo catch. That's a stunning catch. Sensational catch. She's celebrating. It's happening to Bermuda. Let her off the kettle. He's on the line, put on the wear easy. He ain't over there. He's miles away. Here he is, the big man. The fridge is open. He's falling like a gazelle. I can't believe it. A brilliant catch. Boys, you need another 9 wickets. The game isn't over. He sets off now. He's on his way. There is what a catch.
Come here. I need to see the tears though. Gotta see the tears. Look at the tears. Look at the tears. Here they come.
Unbelievable start. Malaki Jones, well, he's emotional at the moment. The 17-year-old playing.
17 years old. Do you understand his tears? Because it wasn't just about him. You watch cricket long enough, you know you will see Erling Jones, his dad, generations. First delivery that he ever built in a cricket world. Come on, bro, are you with me? First time in the World Cup. A Barclay student. He was a student at the Barclay. Now, how do we bottle that and replicate that? I want to say this. I went to our kids say they don't know about this. There should be some type of statue or something like slugging, you know what I'm saying, or statue or something. Now, how do we ensure that our young people know about this moment? How do we replicate it? And this is my last question I'll throw for you. How do we decide? What if we decide that in 2050 we're going to make the football World Cup? And we put a plan to do so. And we go to the accidents that's in this room, in our country, in our island. And we decide that we're brilliant, we're good enough, and we can make a difference in our community. Thank you for your time.
That was a long presentation. I almost felt like telling them, you know better.
I came from Florida. I came from California.
I don't think you mean, you don't mean,
Right.
you don't mean I think, there's not a whole lot to say to wrap this up. My role is to keep us focused on message. We've talked a lot about paradise and what that means and who created it and in whose interest it is that we give ourselves those props. We cannot allow our young people to be murdered. Now, we've generalized a lot, and the fact of the matter is that even though it feels overwhelming, the majority of our young people are not killing people. There is a small pocket, and we have the wherewithal in this community to fix it. So hopelessness ought not to be on the agenda. But remember what I said at the beginning, and I'm not a panelist, I have to remember my place. But after all is said and done, more is always said than done. And so what we need to do is to capture the will, the intelligence, the skill, the organizational strength that is represented here, and we have to build on it. This is not I Dream a Genie, where we close our eyes and do that. We're fighting for ourselves and we're fighting for our lives. And that requires us to be intentional. And so I thank very much the Bermuda College and the lecture committee for arranging this. I said at the outset that we were in the business of collecting information for building. Mr. DeShields, okay, all right, there is something that needs to be said about that, and we want to create a repository for this, because yes, we are an oral people, but we want to collect, we want to build. We don't want all of this to escape like it never happened. And so I know that people were very, very anxious to participate because of the extensive time that I allowed, because I thought it was necessary. We are going to have an opportunity, and we're going to offer an opportunity for all of you who are interested to share with us and to be a part of what is collected from the night. So I'm going to ask Ms. Trott to come down. While you're coming down, I'm going to do a very quick thank you again to our sponsors. ER Fisheries and Foods, Chico and Tea's Restaurant and Catering, BCG, Bermuda Communications Group Limited, the Bermuda College Faculty Association, thank you, Ms. Troy, and Cambridge Beaches and Resort, Cambridge Beaches Resort and Spa. We thank them for their contribution, and again,
Good evening. My name is Nachika Trot. I am the Faculty Association Chair at the Bermuda College, and I have the pleasure this evening of giving the thanks. We'll first of all like to acknowledge Minister David Birch, Minister of Public Works, who's here, Senator Robin Tucker, Dr. Green, our college president, Mr. Jerome Reed, our Board of Governors Chair, and other board members. Thank you for your support this evening. Panelists, what can we say to each of you and your unique perspectives that you have shared here this evening? We appreciate your honesty, your thought-provoking comments, and your call to action to the community that now is the time to act, to change the projection of this country. Thank you to you, because we have the solutions in this island. We have the experts that are needed to solve this problem. All of us in this room have a responsibility to our community. I would like to thank you, the audience, for your willingness to come here this evening and hear from our local experts. We ask that you know the video or the YouTube video is available. We are asking you to please share that video, share that YouTube with your families. Have a family meeting and sit down and talk about it. Let's get back to the village concept that we all experienced growing up in this country, because it is lost right now. We would like to thank our moderator, Mrs. Pearman. And we would especially like to thank the chairperson of this event from his numerous emails, calls, WhatsApps on my phone at all hours of the night and the morning, Mr. D. Shields. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For your vision and tenacity to see this project through. Thank you. The call to action. Dr. Douglas stated that we know better, but the challenge is we need to do better in our communities. There will be a research paper that will be produced about murders in paradise, written by some members of staff here at the Bermuda College in conjunction with Mr. Sherlock. As a part of the planning team's discussion, it was suggested that some form of follow-up action plan or community-led focus group be established to providing ongoing support, guidance, and direction and education in tackling and eliminating the murders of young Black males that have plagued this island for over a decade. This movement will be similar to what is currently in Toronto University called RISE. You can Google it and you'll find out some more information about that. Research has proven, and it is a firm belief of the fall 2022 lecture series panel members, that abating the antisocial behavior challenges facing Bermuda must start in our primary schools. It must be an integrated part of our family's upbringing of best practices. If you wish to be a part of this action team, please contact Mr. DeShields, sdshields@college.bm, or you may contact him on the telephone 236-9000, extension 4252. I'm sure with the audience online and you here today, his email is going to be inundated tomorrow. So once again, thank you to Commissioner of Corrections. Thank you for your support of this much needed conversation this evening and what we needed to hear from the gentleman in Westgate. Thank you. Thank you to our communications team here at the Bermuda College. We'll also like to thank our security and IT team and the college administration for supporting our vision to bring this form to the people of Bermuda. Dr. Douglas will be having a book signing of his book, Border Crossing Brothers, at the end of this event. We'll also like to acknowledge and thank the Honorable Consul of Ghana for their sponsorship, and to Lori and Lloyd Smith as well. So before we wrap this up, we have a couple of surprises for you. If you look underneath your chair, you are lucky to be here. There are 8 prizes under your chairs as a party gift to you. Underneath the table, at the back of the table. Look forward where your feet is. There are 8 gifts.
Get on screen.
There are 8, so there's gotta be something around. So one of them is the envelope. You wanna find that one. There we go. There's one. There, brown paper bags. Okay.
There's one.
Right. So thank you for your audience and patience this evening. And have a good evening. Thank you.